All right, the second region is play basketball when we were a kid. So Jason Kidd, number 1 seed overall. And so we'll get the tournament back up here. So Jay Kidd is going to go against Goran Dragic. I didn't say it right, I'm sure. You know, Ray knows how I can't say last names. That's why I never do it.
I wouldn't be any better on this one.
All right. So with that said, anyone think that Goran was a good basketball player? You have to be in the NBA. Is going to be, once again, be upset and beat up Jay Kidd.
No,
Tyler?
No, I'm going Jason Kidd.
Yeah, Goran Dragic is a really great, a really nice point guard. I would take him on my team any day, but if he's going up against Jason Kidd, most people are losing that battle.
Yeah. Ray?
I'm Jason Kidd.
Good. Jay Kidd's going to move on. All right, the next one. Here's one of the things that I had trouble with was this. So where do you put some of the young guys? So, you know, Mark, I know you said some of these guys are, probably undervalued. Trae Young is probably one that might be over. So I put a couple of the young point guards right in kind of, the 5-6 area. So we've got Trae Young versus old school Mark Jackson. So Mark, go ahead and start this one.
Okay. I'm going with Trae Young. I know it's young and or early in his career, but his ability to do what he's been able to do, he creates for others, he scores. It's you look at Steph, he plays like Steph, and Steph's a 2 seed in this, I believe. We'll get to it, but I would take Steph running the show. I would take Trae in a heartbeat. I love Mark Jackson. He was tough. He's a brilliant mind. So it's a tough one, but it's hard to go against the skill set of this kid.
Yeah. Tyler?
Yeah, I went Trae Young. Most of the reasons that Mark did. I think Trae Young's going to have a really good career. Obviously, hopefully, he just keeps continuing to get better. He's still so young. Hopefully, he can get better on the defensive end to really solidify his overall game. But, Trae Young, he can light it up. Like Mark said, he can create for others. So I'm going Trae Young.
Ray?
Now, see, first thing I do want to say is the bracket that I filled out, I just thought was going to be on the internet forever, and as we mentioned, it's not. So I'm repicking, basically. I don't know what I picked originally, whatever. Doesn't matter. Again, some of the arguments that were brought up previously, who do I want running my team, sort of changed my perspective. Trae Young, he can score. He can do a lot of things, maybe even more things than Mark Jackson. But now I'm starting to think, where do you value, the veteran over the young guy, Mark Jackson played for a real long time. Our coach on our panel, our other coach, sorry to pick a lot of you, you're also a coach. But anyway, Coach Mark, he said that, Trae does all these things. You got to value a lot of different things, whatever. But, man, I just feel like the brilliant mind of Mark Jackson, that's who I want leading my team in this matchup.
Okay.
Now, 10 years from now, maybe I change my mind, but
that's what I said. With the young guys, you don't know, but like I said, Mark Jackson, good leader, tough, was part of that Knicks team that beat the piss out of people. But what Trae Young is showing potentially where he is, I also had to go with the young guy, Trae Young. All right.
And by the way, Tyler, you were all worried about the recency bias. I'm all in on the 80s and 90s. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Hey, and Ray, I actually have your bracket up. I never closed it. You picked Trae originally, so I can tell you all of your original picks.
All right. I might have to have you do that.
Yeah. All right. So we got Derrick Rose versus Maurice Cheeks. All right. Ray, you start this.
Thank you for letting me lead. And by the way, I'm just going to go back to that last matchup. I'm not surprised I picked Trae Young because I loved him coming out of college too. That's sort of the guy I wanted the Bulls to get. Big fan.
Yeah.
And then go back and research kind of, what he was in high school, maybe not overly underappreciated because he went big time, Oklahoma, right? He went to a real nice program. but then also there were some people doubting him going in the draft, and then
Yep.
had an outstanding rookie season. So he's big fan.
Yep.
This matchup, I mean, Derrick Rose, he's kind of a mesh of the two. Having, pick, I think your last mention of Trae Young was the trajectory he's on. I want to just pick Derrick Rose. We'll use him as the cautionary tale. Don't put too much value in the trajectory they have after a year or two. But anyway, in this matchup, I liked Mo Cheeks and another brilliant mind in basketball. But Derrick Rose, just a lot of talent, speed. He's that Chicago kid that they talk about. A little bit of grit to him. I take Derrick Rose in this.
Yeah, and I'll add for here with Derek is he's kind of changed his game. He kind of changed his attitude, changed his mentality. In the last couple of years, he's been a very good point guard. So he had all that ability, kind of within the injuries, and then comes back and has been a solid NBA player. How about you there, Tyler?
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. To that point, some of the really, really great players that had long careers, they do have to reinvent themselves. So that's an excellent point you bring up there, Coach.
Yes, agreed.
Tyler, go ahead.
I went Derrick Rose. Yeah, Derrick Rose. He was my favorite player growing up. As a diehard Bulls fan, I absolutely loved watching Derrick Rose play. Just his athleticism, the way he attacked the basket. I mean, when the ball was in his hands, you kind of just wondered what was going to happen next. And it's hard as a Bulls fan to kind of sit back and think about what could have been if he didn't get hurt, because I'm sure his career would have just been unbelievable. But yeah, I'm definitely going Derrick Rose.
Mark, anything to add?
No, you guys said it all. I think Tyler's point of if he didn't get hurt, man, he was on track to be one of the best ever. You look at his MVP season, and man, he's one of those people I got to see live at that time, and it was against the Celtics, that really good Celtics team, and he was unbelievable. And again, the reinventing. He found a way when people were doubting him to come back and be a great leader for that team, and he's phenomenal.
Yeah, and he was so athletic and talented, but I'll never forget, I was watching that dunk that he had in Phoenix when he exploded.
Yes.
I got up and jumped on the scene. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that was unbelievable. I mean,
Yes.
But anyway, let's move on. We've got Damian Lillard versus the Jet, Kenny Smith. Ray, you may start this one again.
Dang it. All right. I'm like the worst team in the league. I get first pick all the time.
Well, you made it seem like I hadn't let you started, so I gave you back-to-back. We were snaking there, so you're back-to-back.
All right. I go Damian Lillard in this one. I mean, I like Kenny Smith, and he, again, played for a long time, had certain leadership qualities, but I just think the overall talent, once again, kind of like the last matchup, I just think it's in Lillard's favor, and I go for him.
Mark?
Yep, Damian Lillard, again, same thing, agree. I love them both, but Dame's just really good. He's different.
Yeah. Tyler?
Yeah, I'm going Damian Lillard. I mean, I personally think that Damian Lillard's one of the most underrated players in the NBA today. I wish he'd get more credit and he'd be talked about more, but I'm definitely going Damian Lillard.
All right. Yes, I am doing this right. Okay. All right, so then let's go down here. We've got messed up there. Not ready for that. Chris
That's all right.
Paul.
I thought you fell. I thought you had a heart attack on us.
No, just my phone. Just the phone and camera. Sorry.
Chris Paul versus Eric Bledsoe. Tyler, what do you got first?
I'm going Chris Paul. Just a solid traditional playmaking point guard throughout his whole career. The numbers don't lie. The accolades don't lie. Great leader. I will say Eric Bledsoe he's a physical specimen. He, if I wanted a team that was going to be gritty and, we were really going to try to be physical, I might go Eric Bledsoe just because he's built that way. But a guy like Chris Paul, sure Hall of Famer, so I'm going Chris Paul.
Mark?
Yep, I'm 100% Chris Paul for all those reasons.
Yeah, Chris Paul. He's pretty special with the ball. I don't need much more to say right now. We'll have some more some interesting talks later. But Ray, anything to add
Nope.
with this one?
Nope. Everything you guys said, Tyler said it really, really well. I'm on board, 100%.
All right. Next matchup, Kevin Johnson versus Lonzo Ball. Mark, get us started on this. Get us started on this matchup.
All right. I went with Kevin Johnson. This one was a tough one because I think I still really like Lonzo Ball. I think his ability to pass, create, his shots getting better. I just haven't seen enough fire from him yet. I think Kevin Johnson was a monster. Athletic, he could score. You know, I always thought he should pass better. I'm not going to lie. I'd take Lonzo over that, but man, he just competed every night. And I just haven't seen that out of Lonzo enough yet in his career.
Ray?
I'm Kevin Johnson, 100%. I know Lonzo, you know, again, you mentioned it way back when, pick, but you have to have talent to play in the NBA. You know, so he's got talent, but I think I just have a bitter taste in my mouth, mostly because of his dad. So it kind of falls into that like Isaiah Thomas thing where I can't put some of my biases aside. But Kevin Johnson, I enjoyed him. Again, it's that 80s, 90s bias. You know, I liked him. I can picture him in the Phoenix Suns jersey, the old Phoenix Suns jersey. You know, I like Kevin Johnson. He's my guy.
Yeah, he was so good. He was one-on-one. He was a tough handle for a lot of these guys, but yeah, he was tough to guard. Tyler, have you seen KJ play at all?
Yeah, I did my research a little bit, so I would definitely go Kevin Johnson, but it was tough for me because one thing I will say about Lonzo is if I was a coach and I had a guy on my team like Zion, I mean, Lonzo's the perfect point guard for Zion to really set him up and help him be successful. So if I was coaching and I had a guy like Zion who I knew was going to be, you know, a franchise player and plays above the rim and stuff like that, then I might reconsider and go with Lonzo, but I went with Kevin Johnson.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun. Hopefully they stay together for a while because, yeah, Lonzo with his passing ability and you know, the way that they've set that offense up for him to follow everyone to the rim, oh, man, they're going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so the next one, I got to show a little, well, can't see there's a little D. Will Love here. That one of his 800 teams he was on there. D. Will, Darren Williams versus Mookie Blaylock. This one should be interesting. All right. So Ray, you start. No, Tyler, you start this one. Mookie Blaylock, D. Will.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it short and simple. Darren Williams for sure for me, and a lot of it has to do with U of I. You know, Illini all the way. Obviously, he's an Illinoisan. I'm a huge Illini fan, so definitely going Darren Williams.
All right, Ray.
I'm Darren Williams also, and it has a lot to do with the University of Illinois also. You know, when I mentioned the 80s, 90s bias, I really liked Oklahoma back in the day, both football and basketball. Mookie Blaylock, correct me if I'm wrong, played with Stacey King. He had some real good teams, you know, back then. So I did enjoy them. That's one of the combos and teams that I sort of, you know, grew up watching and rooting for in the NCAA tournament and stuff like that. So I like Mookie Blaylock a lot. But Darren Williams is like just one of those guys like you. You got the jersey. We got the Illini I love. Watched him in the NBA that had a better career in the NBA than I would have guessed, you know. But Darren Williams moves on for me 99 times out of 100.
Mark?
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, I'm with you 100%, Ray. I love that Oklahoma team. And did they lose to Kansas in '88?
I think, yeah.
They were in the Final Four. But I remember, and I loved Mookie. He was such a great defender. I think he led the nation in steals in college the senior year. I could be wrong, but he was really fun to watch. I loved him, but D. Williams, oh my gosh, what he did in the league. And I know as he went on, he didn't stay at the level he was playing at, but at that one point, it was him and Chris Paul, in my opinion, were the two best point guards in the league for that, you know, back X amount of years ago. So he wins that.
Yeah, I'm with you. You old guys. I love Mookie Blaylock, but yeah, D. Will, of course, you know, we got love for him, but he was really good for a few years. Once again, before he got injuries and some things, but he was tough to defend with the ball in his hand.
Yeah.
And the last one in this one, something to add? Sorry.
Oh, well, I did a little research real quick, and Coach is right. Oklahoma Sooners were runners-up in '88, lost to the Jayhawks and Danny Manning,
Yep.
coached by Larry Brown.
Yep.
All right, and the last matchup in this region, the 5 seed, Steve Nash versus a young Colin Sexton. Mark, go ahead. What do you got for this one?
All I gotta say is let's move on to the next one.
Thank you. Anyone else? That's what I
Steve
thought
Nash.
too. Steve Nash is so good. We'll talk about him later.
So, yeah.
Oh man, I love Steve
Yeah.
Nash. All right, which means that we are to another region. So I got to get my backup here. So with this one, this is you got to go to practice to be good region.
We talk about practice.
Yeah, that's right. And as soon as I find it, it is AI.
You should have
Allen
practiced.
Iverson is the number 1 seed overall in this region. So AI is here, and his matchup for the first round is Muggsy Bogues. Now, the one ranker that I had him, I don't know if it was the ranker where people get to vote. He was really high. I don't think he was as high as ever. Maybe just because of his name, but a good point guard. But we're talking about AI, just like the last one. Do we need to go on anymore? But besides what Muggsy Bogues was able to do at his height?
No.
No, AI.
All right. Then we've got, this one's a good one. I look forward to this one. Kyle Lowry versus Baron Davis. Interesting matchup all the way around. I like to see these guys play one-on-one when they were in their heyday. All right, let's go, Tyler. What'd your research show you?
So I actually went with Kyle Lowry. Now, it could be some recency bias. Obviously, I've grown up watching Kyle Lowry play. I knew who Baron Davis was, and I've seen highlights and stuff like that, and I know what he did over his career. And I want to say his numbers career-wise are better right now than Kyle Lowry's are. But Kyle Lowry, he's had a good career. He's a champion, good playmaking, point guard. So I would go Kyle Lowry.
Mark?
I do think that's a close one, but I think that Baron Davis, especially at his peak, is going to get this one, and I think that because again, I don't know that I have recency bias or old school, that I hold on to. You've heard my statements on some of the old players, even ones we didn't see. That I just think the game's changed, people have gotten stronger, all these things, but. I think the thing with Kyle is the playoff picture for him over the years. With Toronto being so good and dominant through the regular season a lot. And again, I saw him play live in Indiana a few years back, and he had a triple-double in that game. And he was unstoppable. Now, Indiana wasn't that good at the time either, but the guy's very talented. But I'm going to take BD on this one.
Brett?
Coach Mark, can you remind? I feel like I went Kyle Lowry. Is that who I went originally?
I can tell you. Let's see.
And strangely enough, I feel like that
You
would
did.
be a recency
did.
bias. Yeah, I mean, my memories of Baron Davis, I feel like were more in the college ranks. Did he have some maybe special games that like whether it was in the tournament or just during big matchups? Am I crazy? Didn't he go? He wasn't. I mean, I know it was a Tyus, whatever that dude was that went coast to coast for a layup. But didn't Baron Davis have
Tyus
one
Edney.
like that? Yeah, Tyus Edney. But did Baron Davis have something like that? Maybe in a tournament.
College?
I don't know. Maybe. Well, it would have been in college, but maybe I'm crazy or mixing him up. But I don't have the research or the numbers to back it up. But I went Kyle Lowry on this.
And I'm with Mark. Baron Davis. I think he just dominated games once again, like a lot of these point guards. Kyle Lowry in the playoffs up to last year. I make a decision, and this one's a tough one, and I like Baron Davis. If I had to pick one of these to be my point guard, I went Byron Davis. So we're 2-2, right, Tyler?
This is the first 2-2?
Yes,
Yeah. Is this our first
Wow.
one?
this is our first one. So what do you think here?
Probably just go whichever one I did not pick.
Did anyone change their mind based upon what people said?
No.
Then we go. Then we got to go higher seed then, or the better seed. I'm going Baron Davis, and
I'm
that's who
very
I
okay
went
with
with.
that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. This one. This one was close. James Harden's had the ball in his hand last 2 or 3 years nonstop, so he had to be a point guard. Should be interesting discussion. And then Spencer Dinwiddie, another guy I didn't. It's probably maybe a little high for a 46. Could have put someone else in. So let's go, Mark. I'm going to start with you on this one.
As much as I have struggles with James Harden being a point guard and leading my team, I have to go with him in this round.
In this round, yes.
Yes.
Tyler?
Yeah, I went James Harden, and just kind of like what Mark was saying. If I was a coach, I'd rather have James Harden, run and shooting guard. I don't really view him much as a point guard, but when you put him up against someone like Spencer Dinwiddie, he'd take that all day. So I'm going James Harden.
Ray?
James Harden. Yep.
Yeah, and the thing with this right now, what's the usage? I know that's a big, metrics thing. His usage has to be crazy high because the ball is in his hand and he's just creating. That's what they have gone to for that offense. So that's a discussion too when we talk about different offenses. It's just give the ball to him, pick and roll, and then let him go.
It's disgusting is what it is. Him and Russell Westbrook, we'll get to him too, but those two have surpassed the usage percentage of AI and Kobe in their biggest years with their highest usage rates, which were the highest in NBA history. But now you get Russell and James just breaking those year after year because they just dominate the ball so much. It's awful. But great two guards. He needs to score, but not a point guard.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, coach put him in this role, so that's why I put him at point guard because, like I said, his usage rate is crazy high. All right, so then we've got Jason Terry, who played 83 years in the NBA, and then against the UTEP two-step, Timmy Hardaway. So Tyler, we'll let you start partly because Tim Hardaway's son plays right now. So what do you know about old Tim? Gosh darn it, Tim Hardaway.
Yeah, I'm definitely going Tim Hardaway. Jason Terry's had a good career. Good shooter, but from what I know about Tim Hardaway and just watching highlights and hearing my dad and stuff talk about him, I'm going Tim Hardaway.
Ray?
I'm Tim Hardaway also. I liked Jason Terry, and he was one of those headband guys, high socks guys. I love both. All right. Yeah. But Tim Hardaway, when you talk about talent on the court, I just love that dude, and it was in my wheelhouse when I was watching sports. He's from Chicago originally, went to high school in Chicago before the UTEP two-step. So for a lot of reasons, you got to go Tim Hardaway in this one.
Mark?
Yeah, I have no argument. I agree with everything. I love Jason Terry since Arizona days. And he had a great career, hit some big shots, was always fun. But Tim Hardaway was a phenomenal point guard. He could run my team any day.
You talk about now, with the big three of some of these teams. Think about back in the day when you had Hardaway, Mullen, and Richmond. Boy,
right.
Those three could score.
Yes.
All right. Fun. Yeah, they were. We've got Tony Parker versus Doc Rivers. Mark, go ahead and start us off with this one.
All right. I'm going with Tony Parker on this. I think that the Doc Rivers, and which goes back to the Mark Jackson argument we had a little bit, the thing about these guys is they weren't great shooters. They weren't great three-point shooters. They had good mid-range games. Both of them were physical, great leaders. But Tony Parker, his speed, his ability to play pick and roll, his ability to get in the paint, floaters, find open people, he was a handful. And you look what those Spurs teams did, and yes, they had Duncan. Ginobili did so many amazing things and had big moments, but Tony Parker led that team. And if you know the history of him and Pop, how tough Pop coaches. And they didn't see eye to eye. And Tony, he was young when he got there, and he evolved. He grew into being tougher, being coachable, and doing what Pop asked, and he got better and better because of it. Those are the kind of guys you want to coach, and I went with Tony Parker on this one.
Ray?
I go Tony Parker also. I mean, again, for all the reasons I've said already, I saw more of Doc Rivers. I was an Atlanta Hawks fan back in the day, like Dominique Wilkins, and they had some good talent on those teams, led by, at the point guard, by Doc Rivers, and they didn't win much. But now, like Coach Mark said, you have Tony Parker surrounded by talent with a good coach, and they won a lot. Now, Doc Rivers is probably a better coach, maybe arguably a better coach than he was a player. So maybe, in my head, I had to, filter all that stuff. But Tony Parker brings a ton to the table if you want a point guard to lead your team. For me in this matchup, it's Tony Parker.
Tyler?
Yeah, I'm going Tony Parker. A lot of the same reasons with what have already been said. But, Tony Parker, very successful, obviously a champion. Now, I will say Doc Rivers, I know absolutely nothing about Doc Rivers when it comes to his playing days. Obviously, he's a great coach, but I know nothing about Doc Rivers in his playing days. So when I saw this at first, I don't even think I considered putting Doc Rivers. I think I was Tony Parker all the way because of that. But yeah, Tony Parker gets my vote.
Yeah, he dominated the ball. They talk about the Spurs ball movement and how good it was. But when the shot clock ran down, it was either, he was going to Duncan or Robinson or Tony Parker off that pick and roll, and he was awful good, getting to the paint and creating for a shot for him or getting the ball to the other guy, someone else. All right, DJ, Dennis Johnson versus Damon Stoudemire. Let's go, Ray.
I knew you were going to do this. Dennis Johnson, he was a good point guard back in the day for the Celtics and whatnot. And the seed, wants me to sway one way, but in my heart, my brain, I feel like Damon Stoudemire is someone I would rather have on my team over DJ. DJ surrounded by like all Hall of Famer, players. That makes it a little easier. I wonder, this is a huge exaggeration, but I could play point guard with Larry and the chief down low, Kevin McHale doing his thing and all that. I feel like I like Damon Stoudemire in this matchup. Mark, can you look at my bracket? Who did I have in this one?
I can. I think you took Dennis Johnson.
Oh, great. Of course I would have.
And I'll tell you what you did in the next matchup with him as well after we get there.
Oh, no.
Mark, how about this one? You know what? I think Ray's argument is phenomenal. I went with Damon Stoudemire, and again, I think it's tough as the game's evolved. You used to be able to play the game and not have a good jump shot because of just the way the game was played at that time, and positioning, spacing, all these things have evolved. And I struggle to take a point guard that can't knock down open threes consistently. I just think defensively, when I face that, there's so many things we do scheme-wise and game plan for it. And I love it when I face, and it doesn't have to be a point guard, but I love it when I face point guards that can't shoot because, the ball's in their hands and we don't necessarily have to guard them. And I would have, if I'm playing against Dennis Johnson, he was a great defender. That's the only thing he had over Stoudemire, in my opinion. But I'm literally sagging in the paint, daring him to shoot, letting him shoot 20 shots to make their team win. It's not what he's built for. It's not what he did. So I'm taking Stoudemire in this.
Tyler?
Yeah, so I actually went Dennis Johnson. I knew more about Dennis Johnson than I did Damon Stoudemire before I did this. So I had to look up Damon Stoudemire and do a little bit of research there. But Dennis Johnson was obviously a great defender. I didn't know that he was not a good shooter. So maybe if I knew that beforehand and I would have done a little bit more research, I maybe would have changed my vote there. But because of what he did on the defensive end, if I have a point guard that I know can defend and lead the team on the defensive end, then that's good enough for me. So I'm going with Dennis Johnson.
This one was tough. I know, but I did go with Damon. Just simple fact that, once again, he could score. And he was quick. He could get the ball. Dennis Johnson's one of those guys as Ray said, he played with awful good players, but he was that leader. He was that toughness. He was the guy that led by example, got on loose balls, diving on the floor. One of love to have on your team. But for picking someone, Damon Stoudemire could do a little more offensively for the team, so that's why I kind of leaned toward. But it was awful close for me. All right. Dang, I did it again. Michael Conley versus Andre Miller. This is one where Coach Hale, I know he loves Andre Miller, but Ray, what about this matchup?
Dang it. I mean, I like Andre Miller too, but Mike Conley, that's a tough matchup right there.
It's a 7-10 matchup. So
what did I do last time?
You went with Mike Conley.
I gotta go Mike Conley. I'll forget my argument, but I feel like he's a better defensive player. When I think point guard, in my brain I have nothing to back this up, but I just think more of Conley over Miller. And again, there's no real backing for that. I don't know.
All right, Tyler?
Yeah, I went Mike Conley. You know what you're getting from him year in and year out. He puts up consistent numbers. He's going to do a little bit of playmaking for your team, and he's going to be a strong leader on the court, but also off the court too. So I know Mike Conley is really involved in the community, and so a leader like that, someone that's going to lead your team on and off the court, I definitely want a guy like that on my team. I will say Andre Miller, from what I remember in his career, I had only seen him and watched him when his numbers were going down. So he was getting older, the numbers were going down, so the production wasn't there then when he was in his prime. So that maybe could have impacted my decision a little bit, but I'm going Mike Conley.
Mark?
Yeah, this is as tough of a matchup that's on this sheet, in my opinion. I think that I loved Andre Miller, and I think he was, in a traditional sense, a pure point guard. And I do think he made people better. And you look at what he did on teams he was on. And I remember watching games where he had, just assist after assist after assist, huge double-figure assist games. But, again, not a great three-point shooter. Mike Conley has really evolved. I think what he's done for that Grizzlies team that was so boring to watch, but so effective and so tough. And he was the leader of that group. His numbers dropped in Utah, but when you move and you step into a new place and there's already a leadership thing established, and he had to adjust. And I think that by the end of the year, you could see he did. And he's taken a back seat to letting Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert be the guys. Again, that shows to me maturity, leadership. I really I had to go with Mike Conley on this.
I picked Andre Miller. I love point guards to kind of back people in, and like I said, he would cause some matchup problems for teams because he was so physical. Like you said, he would willing to give the ball to the open guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was 3-1. But I really liked what Andre Miller did and the things that he could do for a team.
And Andre Miller is one of those guys that a lot of these championship teams, like the Heat and that, want him as their bench guy, So I mean that speaks to him also. Yes. But I'm sticking with Mike Conley.
All right, and the last one in this region, we've got the glove, Gary Payton versus Rod Strickland. Tyler, you know anything about Rod Strickland and the glove? These are two old school guys.
Yeah, I know a lot more about Gary Payton than I do Rod Strickland. I obviously did a little bit of research on Rod Strickland, but I think either way I'd go with Gary Payton. Unbelievable defender, champion, point guard I definitely like to have on my team. So I'm going Gary Payton.
Mark?
Yeah, Gary Payton was one of the first guys I fell in love with, in a sense, and watching him in college and started to really try to model my game after him. It was Gary, it was Stockton, it was Jason Kidd were the primary. With Gary, his toughness, he's the reason I started chewing gum during high school games. I'm not going to lie. I started chewing gum because I watched Gary just chomping on gum. Man, he's so cool. he's probably the reason I started getting so mouthy and talking too much when I played too. But
I was just going to say that. I can
God.
see the glove in you now as I think back. Just even some of
Yeah.
your mannerisms.
Yeah, and somehow in my 40s I'm starting to grow up, which is great. But I definitely did a lot of that, and I think Gary's a big reason. But man, he was tough, and people don't talk about this enough. Gary Payton was probably, in my opinion, the best defender of Michael Jordan that I had ever watched. You watch those championships and they held on to win and beat the Sonics, but Mike struggled in those finals and at times, and it was Gary Payton. That man was so good defensively. He was so tough defensively. He could guard bigger players, and he was like a bigger, more talented version of what you see from Patrick Beverley these days. Patrick Beverley, with his frame, he can guard anybody, it seems like. I mean, there's obviously going to be restrictions, but I think that Gary Payton was so under, even though he's known as a great defender, I don't think people talk about him as much as they should about being the guy that could make Mike struggle more than I think anybody else I've ever seen. So he was phenomenal. I love Gary Payton.
Ray, we're about time on this one. Anything?
I will only take a minute and 15 seconds. Okay?
No, take about 15 because I love the gloves.
I think, yeah, we spent way too much time talking about this because this is a cakewalk. Now, I like Rod Strickland. I pulled for him. He's a DePaul guy, I mean, I really liked Rod Strickland, but this is easy. Gary Payton's one of my favorite of all time. And Tyler, I want to just add one little plug here. I don't know how Lauren did in college, but what I remember watching her play in middle school, I called her the glove because she played defense.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, like a lot of middle schoolers don't play defense, period. And she did, and she would lock girls up, and I loved watching that. And I'm sure her dad, can take some of the credit of that. But you let her know that Mr. Borgman said that, all right?
I will. Yeah, if she didn't play defense, she would have been out of the house in a heartbeat. So she was only going to play if she was going to play defense. So.
All right. Well, I'll talk about the glove later. This has been Allen Iverson. Got to practice to be good region here.